Hello students, welcome to Vajirao and Reddy online platform. Like we were discussing the approach to mains answer writing, in today's session we are going to look at the approach to GS paper 1 answers. This, as I told you earlier, I am going to take one previous year question and we will be looking at the model answer. Along with that we will understand the components that we have seen. Let us begin. The question that I have taken here is, I have taken it from GS paper 1 geography topic. Let us look at the question. The question is, discuss. See here the very first word, the tail word that we are getting, directive word, that is discuss. Discuss the geophysical characteristics of circum-Pacific zone. This was a question asked in 2021 for 10 markers and we have to write it in 150 words. This is the word limit. So 150 words means we get 2 pages. So what should be the approach to it? Simple. Let us look at the approach or the structuring of the answer. Simple. First, what is the demand of the question? We need to discuss various geophysical characteristics of what? Circum-Pacific zone. So we will be introducing our answer by defining what is circum-Pacific zone. So in the introduction itself we will be writing or defining what you understand by circum-Pacific zone. Then we will also present it diagrammatically. So we will draw a simple diagram, the world map, showing the Pacific region, circumvention of the Pacific region. That's introduction. Now in the body, what is the core demand? The core demand is we need to discuss on the geophysical characteristics. That is the core demand. That's the reason why we are going to put it under body. Various geophysical characteristics will be discussed here. Then towards the end we need to provide the optimistic conclusion. That's where conclude highlighting the importance of this region, particularly in geophysical situation. What is the importance of this situation, this particular region? So this is the approach and structure of our answer. So let us look at the model answer and try to write this particular question. So let us look at this first. In the answer we will be introducing by defining what is circum-Pacific zone. So here you don't have to go with the bookish definitions or any hi-fi definitions. You simply write what you understand by it. Simple. Circum-Pacific zone is the region encompassing the coast of Asia, Australia, North America, South America, simply circumventing the Pacific Ocean. This is the highlighted point. You can underline it. Circumventing Pacific Ocean. That's the reason why we are calling it as circum-Pacific zone. Plus, we'll also highlight it stretches from where to where? From Bering Strait in this region till New Zealand region on this side and till the South American tip on the other side. So this entire shape, this entire region is called circum-Pacific zone, and roughly it is in a shape of a horseshoe, right? That can also be added. It is in the shape of this horseshoe that can be highlighted in the introduction itself. Now we need to present it in the diagrammatic form also. Here I have taken the diagram from the book, but we need to draw it. In exam we don't get this facility. So let's draw this. How do we draw it? See, there is like different ways of drawing the world map. You can draw it in a very crude form, just presenting what are the different continents and oceans, and you can draw it roughly matching the shape of it. Now here our focus should be Pacific Ocean. So we will begin from Africa. Roughly Africa is in the shape of triangle with Horn of Africa, then this Arabian Peninsula, and then India. This portion you can say Saudi Arabian Peninsula, and here you have Indonesia and all, then Australia, right? Then this portion will be going, and here you have Europe, So this goes to that area, and here you can put Greenland and all. Now let's not forget Sri Lanka and Madagascar, here Japan. Now on the other side we should also get, the focus should be on this region, so we should get South America and North America. Accordingly you draw it. Again South America is roughly in the shape of a triangle, then comes your North American region. Okay. Now this is the region we need to highlight it, this portion. So here you get Pacific Ocean, and this is the region which is circumventing the Pacific Ocean. Highlight this portion, simple. Or if you want, you can darken it or put it in some legendary form and then say this is the Circum-Pacific Zone. You can present it in this manner, Circum-Pacific Zone. See, this you can practice multiple times and you get to the shape of it. Okay, not a big deal. Now you have drawn the image as well and presented it, and you have also drawn, you have also written the introduction. Now let us enter into the body. In the body, what is the core demand? We need to discuss various geophysical characteristics. So that's where we enter into the body and put the subheading. See, here the connection is being made with the introduction and with the demand of the question. The different geophysical characteristics of Circum-Pacific Zone are as follows. You can put that subheading, you can underline it. Here I have made it bold. Instead of it, what you can do, you can underline it. So here I am simply underlining this. Then let us look at different geophysical characteristics. Number one, it is a convergent zone. So the various tectonic plate interactions, you have on one side a Pacific plate which is oceanic crustal plate. On the other side you have various land plates, continental plates. One is Eurasia plus Australian plate, North American plate and South American plate. These are the four continental crustal plates which are interacting with this. So along the margin of these oceanic and continental plates, there is a convergent zone. A destructive boundary has been formed. As a result of it, what you get, whenever the convergence happens, there is a destruction and there is folding of the crustal plates, and it will give rise to fold mountains. So here you elaborate this, like discuss is the question. So in one or two lines, simply say the Pacific oceanic plate converges with the continental plates of Eurasia, Australia, North America and South America, forming a convergent zone. This is one geophysical characteristic. Second one, as a result of it, there is crustal blocks being folded that results in the formation of fold mountains. So crustal blocks, when they get folded, this results in the formation of a series of fold mountains forming anticlines and synclines. What are those fold mountains? Give the example. For example, Andes in South America, Rockies, etc. So another geophysical characteristic. Next, archipelagos. What is an archipelago? It's a group of islands. If you look at on the other side of this Circum-Pacific Zone, you have various islands ranging from Japan till Indonesia, Philippines. There are so many, including your New Zealand. There are so many islands. Of course, New Zealand is a part of Zealandia, separate continent, but they are in this convergent zone. So that gives rise to this folding of the mountains, and their subduction within the oceans will give rise to various islands. So a chain of or group of islands are there that will give you different archipelagos. Another geophysical characteristic. Then one more, this entire convergent zone is a Benioff zone. Vadati Benioff zone. What is the meaning of it? Simply present it again diagrammatically. You have oceanic crust and you have continental crust. When both of them are converging, since oceanic crust is denser, so along this convergent zone, what happens? It subducts. This is the zone of subduction. This subduction zone is also called Vadati Benioff zone. Benioff zone. See, in this zone what happens? Since the subduction is happening, that will give rise to formation of magma chamber here. As a result of it, this magma will try to erupt here. So this entire zone, the subduction zone, is associated with volcanic activity and earthquakes, seismicity. This is another point which you need to remember. So here present it, and here what kind of earthquakes you get? Shallow focused earthquakes, because this Benioff zone is at the almost relatively shallower depths. So there you get continuous tectonic disturbances. There is a releasing of the energy. As a result of it, there are earthquakes which are shallow focused and most destructive as well. These shallow focused earthquakes are destructive. So all these features we are slightly elaborating them because there is a word limit constraint. So simple, you draw this diagram and say that it is associated with volcanic activity plus earthquakes. Both of these geophysical processes or characteristics are discussed. You can give the example, some of the volcanoes present in this, Mount Fusiyama, you can say Mount Krakatoa. There are so many others on the other side as well, on the Rockies side, Andes side, Aconcagua, all these, you can give them as the examples here, right? Next, let us go to the next character, that is tsunamis. See, when there is lot of seismic activity plus there is biggest ocean, Pacific Ocean is present. When this seismic activity happens within the ocean, what will happen? It will lead to formation of the tsunamis. Simply highlight that because of the seismicity or tectonic activity and volcanic activity, what happens? There is continuous releasing of the energy into the oceans, and that will give rise to formation of tsunamis. Various tsunamis, you can give one or two examples of it, that will take care of it. Then hotspots. See, within this circum-Pacific region and within the Pacific plate, you find such locations where there is mantle plume. That means where the magma is erupting from the mantle to the very core of the earth or interior of the earth. That is giving rise to further volcanic activity, not in the continental margins but within the continents. So this kind of volcanic activity is called hotspot volcanism, and it is associated with mantle plumes. Mantle plumes, that can also be seen it here, and this is another geophysical characteristics. Many hotspot locations are there, for example Galapagos, Hawaii, Yellowstone Park in the interior of the North America. These are all some of the examples, you can give them. Then geothermal processes, because there is continuous volcanic activity and eruption and there is magma eruption and lava coming, this results in formation of some of the hot springs, from where natural springs where you get hot water, and geysers. These are vents which are giving you highly pressurized vapor, water vapor. Such things are also formed there. These are also geophysical characteristics of it. If you remember, you give the examples or you find the examples and give them. Then finally, trenches are also formed here. See, whenever there is this subduction between oceanic crust and continental crust, so along this subduction zone, on the margins of the continent and oceans here, you get this kind of boundaries here, this particular portion, where there is a boundary between this oceanic crust and continental crust. This boundary we generally call it as a trench. So along this entire convergent zone or subduction zone, you can find many trenches. This is another characteristic. So highlight all these characteristics, simple diagram showing the mechanism or 1 or 2 lines about them, 1 or 2 examples. That will take care of your word limit. And finally we need to conclude, and conclusion should be very lucid and highlighting that importance of it. How do we conclude it? Look at this. Thus, Circum-Pacific Zone is a source of study to determine the orogenesis process. Orogenesis process means mountain building process, such as continental formation, mountain fold mountain formation, formation of islands, earthquake activities, volcanic activity, etc. Hence, it is very important to study and understand the distinct geophysical features of the Circum-Pacific Zone. This is how we can conclude it. So this takes care of one answer, particularly from geography side, where we have seen different aspects. Whatever that we have learned in last session, we incorporated them, and this is geography specific answer. Now in the same GS paper 1, we also have other subjects. So let us discuss one question from history side, right? Okay, look at the question, read it once. The question is, trace the rise and growth of socio-religious reform movements, give with special reference. Okay, here it is dropping, with special reference to Young Bengal and Brahmo Samaj. The question was asked in 2021 for 15 marks. So if it is 15 marks, you will have to write it in 250 words. That means how many pages we get? We get 3 pages. So we have to put the content in 3 pages, understanding the demand of the question. Let us look at the question one more time. Trace the rise and growth. So what is being asked? Rise and growth of what? Socio-religious reform movements. So here the focus is going on socio-religious reform movements and their rise and growth. And one more thing is there, second aspect of it. Here we need to provide, or we need to put special focus on what? Young Bengal and Brahmo Samaj and their contributions. Understood? This is the demand of it. And simple, we need to trace, that means on a time scale we need to provide how it has resulted in the different socio-religious movements in India. So let us look at the approach or structure of it. Simple. In the introduction, we will be giving a brief about socio-religious movements in India. Some of the persons we can mention them, some of their works we can mention them in the examples in the introduction itself. Then in the body, what is the core demand? The rise and growth of socio-religious movements plus special emphasis on what? On Young Bengal movement and Brahmo Samaj. That is the requirement, right? We will be writing about it in the body. Then conclusion, see, by highlighting the significance of these socio-religious reform movements, we are going to conclude our answer. Always optimistic on a positive note. So let us look at the model answer. First, in the introduction, as I told you, we will be beginning with the definition of it, or we will be beginning with what we understand by these socio-religious movements or why they came. Simple. Socio-religious reform movements arose in India during 19th century, 1801 to let's say 1991, like before going into the 2000s. 1801 to 1900, this region, to reform caste ridden. So extremely following the caste, extreme rigidity was there with respect to casteism, and orthodox rigid society as a reaction to the colonial rule. See, this is where we are linking, this was a reaction to the colonial rule because colonial rulers, they were showing these elements, orthodox society and our superstitious beliefs and all, as some factors to discriminate us, and socially they were discriminating us. That is the reaction, right? To bring changes in the society, to give up these orthodox and derogatory practices. That is the idea behind this. And here some of the reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, etc. They persuaded the people for what? To give up these orthodox, age-old customs and traditions like practicing of sati system, child marriages, polygamy, etc., female infanticide, etc., by adopting a new way of life. This is the introduction we are giving. So under which what we have taken, what is this social reform movements, why they have generated, and some of the contributors with the goal that has been put in the introduction. Now towards the demand of the question. In the demand of the question, we need to address rise and growth of these socio-religious reform movements. So what is this? See, the rise and growth of socio-religious reform movements in India can be traced in the following manner. First, modern English education. See, here I have only put subheadings. You can elaborate on them because you have 250 words limit. 3 pages are there. So here, how did this modern English education, like many of the people, they are getting that modern education, they are exposed to modern democratic values. They are studying in abroad, learning the ways of the modern people, also getting the exposure to these democratic values of equality, liberty, all these principles. As a result of it, it has, they got these ideas and they started seeing the conditions in India and feeling that they are not on par with the global standards. We need to improve them. So that is one aspect of it, or one factor which has stirred the intelligentsia of Indian people. Then comes the American War of Independence, French Revolution, Russian Revolution, such international events, and knowing about them through the writings or either through like joining them or meeting them through them, we get to know those values and our rights, knowledge about our rights. So this is another aspect which has helped in the rise and growth of socio-religious reform movements. Apart from that, work of Christian missionaries. See, Christian missionaries with their personal motives of converting the people into Christianity, but in that process they also brought some modern education and some values, and they also educated the society and the people. They even promoted some of the people to go out and learn the higher studies, to study for, to aspire for the higher studies. That has also given some of the values, and that provided the knowledge of some of the democratic values. Plus Orientalism. See, there were some colonial rulers and some colonial people who are also appreciating the age-old practices of India, some practices, the Vedic literature, Vedic chantings and Vedic practices, they are being highly revered by some colonial rulers. They even promoted it. So that's the reason why during those times there was this rift between Orientalist and Anglicists, right? So Orientalism and its promotion, that has also supported such reform movements. Later we will see the contribution of William Bentinck in abolition of sati system, where Raja Ram Mohan Rai has been fighting, but William Bentinck also contributed by passing of that law, right? Such great reformers are there. So that is another one, and their support has led to growth and rise of the socio-religious reform movements. Now comes the contributions of Young Bengal and Brahmo Samaj. Now here we need to put a connector. It should not abruptly jump into this subheading. Rather, after writing this, the above events or above factors led to continuous growth of socio-religious reform movements in India, and among them the following are worth noting. Number one, Brahmo Samaj. See, you can give the background of it. Who established? Raja Ram Mohan Rai, and he is regarded as the father of modern India's Renaissance, that awakening of intelligentsia. And he founded Brahmo Samaj in 1828, and what is the ideal aim of it? It is for the worship of eternal God. So there is no particular, they are also against this caste system, they are also against these rituals, sacrifices, priesthood. They were questioning the authorities of the Vedas also, some of the practices which are encoded in the Vedas. Ideal goal is to worship the eternal God, formless, such sort of beliefs, right? Next comes, see, the greatest achievement done by this Raja Ram Mohan Rai or Brahma Samaj is abolition of sati system in 1829 with the help of William Bentinck. Law has been passed and slowly that has been completely abolished. Then comes, he also advocated abolition of polygamy, and he wanted women to be educated, particularly widow remarriages, women rights, even inheritance rights also, like the property rights. He advocated for them. You can look at this, see, inheritance of the property. Plus, he was against this female infanticide. Then he was also voicing for education rights of the women. Plus, this has led to emergence of some rationalism, like logical thinking and questioning the authorities of some practices and some priesthoods who are wrongly interpreting Vedas. Plus, it has also led to the enlightenment in India, and many people started taking it up and they started reforming the society. This is another portion. So it was the Brahma Samaj is the forerunner in all social, religious and political movements which has stirred in India. These are the contributions of Brahma Samaj and Raja Ram Mohan Rai, particularly in the socio-religious reform movements. Then comes the another important contribution which is asked in the question, that is Young Bengal movement. See, like background we will be giving, this was established by Henry Vivian Desrosiers. So he joined Hindu College of Calcutta as a teacher and established this. Here all of them are young people. Even at the time of his death he was just 22, and he was a radical person. He even brought that radical ideas through his teachings, and by organizing the association of these young people to debate and discuss on some of the age-old practices which are orthodox in nature, which has no scientific or logical explanation. So they question them, they question their authority, they question their logic behind them. He inspired his followers and students to question all the authority, including the Vedas. Plus, they cherished the ideas of the French Revolution, where we have inspired liberty, fraternity and equality, three the goals. Even now we have them as our core principles enshrined in our constitution, preamble and all, like liberty, freedom and fraternity, the brotherhood. You can highlight these also, and liberal thinking of the Britain. So these are all some of the contributions of Young Bengal movement and Desrosiers. Now towards the end we need to conclude it after providing all these contributions. So this is where we are going towards the conclusion. See what they did, the significance of it, that is what we need to put and conclude it on a positive note. Look at this. Apart from attacking the social evils such as sati, female infanticide, child marriages and also untouchability, this is another practice, and superstitious behaviors, superstitions and parda system, etc. The socio-religious reform movements also helped in dealing with social inequalities existing in the society, the discrimination based on the social elements, caste or race, different aspects, and illiteracy. They also advocated the education of all, particularly women who were not being given the educational rights during the Vedic time periods. Then racism, which is perpetuated by the colonial rulers. They were discriminating us on the racial features, like black people, and their practices are barbaric, their culture is barbaric, they are not civilized. Such sort of racial discrimination was there. So they have voiced against it. and this has eventually led to development of a self-esteem. Like by that time there was also a revival movements also, which are bringing some sort of respect about the traditional practices, and also slowly the society is also giving up these orthodox practices and social evils. As a result, we got self-respect and self-esteem, and finally that has also galvanized nationalism, the feeling of nationhood among the people, which have ultimately led to fight against the Britishers on all spheres, even including the political spheres. This is how we can conclude it. So these are the two questions from, one is from geography, GS paper 1, another from your history, again GS paper 1. See, one question we have discussed for 150 votes, another question we have discussed for 250 votes, right? So in this question, one presentation elements that you can do is, while writing about the rise and growth, you can represent it in the flow chart manner. You can put the flow points, and then accordingly you can write what change it has brought. Then the contribution, you can present it in the numbers. Here I have used the bulletins. Instead of bulletins, you use the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Don't use some special characters. Rather you use numbers or Roman numerals, or ABCD is also fine. So that's it guys. This is it for this particular session. I hope it is useful. In the next session, what we will do is, we will take up a question from your GS paper 2 from various topics, maybe international relations and polity and constitution or governance, 2 questions, and we will discuss again various aspects of that question. So see you in the next session. Till then, take care everyone. Bye bye. Keep practicing.